Whereas the theory of realism puts a heavy emphasis on state as an actor, and the theory of liberalism puts a heavy emphasis on the norms and cultures as well as outside institutions. English school, so-called because a number of its most well-known scholars originally came from the United Kingdom, has an approach that could be seen as something of a middle ground between the two. English school thought that the school of liberalism adheres a little bit too closely to the importance of international actors and their roles to the exclusion of the state. On the contrary, scholars of the English school believe that the school of realism does the exact opposite, focusing on the state exclusively while ignoring things such as norms and values. And this is where the English school comes in. The English school states that there do exist certain norms and values which keep states in line with one another. A good example of this is the idea of things such as like the value of human rights and the value of life, international law, justice, and things of that nature. However, the English school still states its belief that the sovereignty and the opinion of states has a important role. They believe that states' interests play a guiding role, as does realism, but they don't believe it plays quite the same role realism does. When it comes to the scholars of the field, one of the biggest founding scholars of the English school was named Hadley Bull. Hadley Bull came up with the idea of proximity, essentially the idea that the more two states interact with one another, the more buildup these states have, and they form their own system. So essentially, it is an idea that certain actors outside of the state will play a role as well. And it's a little bit more complex than the theory of realism, which is a bit more basic in regards to what it tries to explain. Essentially, it's the belief that the other theories have something of a one-track mind, that liberalism focuses too much on the human nature and values aspect of it while ignoring sovereignty and states' interests, as well as to describe things such as conflict, alliances, enemies, international law, so on and so forth. And it's the belief that realism focuses on these things too much to the exclusion of everything else. And it also comes up with the idea of the international space. The international space is essentially the idea that all countries and states and people exist in such a space. This is a space where certain values bring people together. Again, values such as international law, human rights, etc., etc. One of the biggest problems when it comes to this particular theory is that this theory, no theory is without criticism, and this is also the case with the English school. One of the biggest criticisms of the English school is a criticism that is shared among realism and liberalism as well. It's essentially the idea that as far as theories go, the English school is simply too Eurocentric. Obviously, all this research derives originally from Europe, but the criticism is that these countries don't take into consideration potential cultural differences when they are describing the various theories they have here. Another criticism is that it's not fleshed out enough. Concepts such as norms and international space are a little bit too vague to be of any proper use to people who want to accurately dissect or discuss the theory in particular. And yet another criticism is the idea that that it's not necessarily fully fleshed out. Many critics have argued that certain aspects of this particular theory could be further expounded upon in a way that would allow it to engage with certain ideas. However, this is essentially the concept of the English school and its interaction with regards to states and also its relation to the other theories. As mentioned previously, it can be viewed as something of a middle ground between liberalism and realism. The belief that neither liberalism nor realism accurately describes why states behave the way they do, and you need something of a marriage between them in order to accurately do that.